Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tarot Today, your new favorite tarot podcast. My name is Adrien Mastro Simon. I am accompanied by.
Delphine Delamar.
Hello, Delphine. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. So excited that it's bank holiday. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. It's Friday, and we're recording our first episode of this very exciting adventure, this new podcast we're putting together. So this is our first episode. We were thinking about what could we start with to talk about.
Yeah, I think that we should tell people a little bit about us. So it's like, Adrian, who are you? And what do you do? And how did you get into tarot? And why is it your favorite thing?
Yeah, it is my favorite thing ever. So who am I? Who am I? Okay, I'll start. I'm originally from the south of France, from Marseille, and from Italian parents actually. And I got my first tarot deck. I was about I think 11 or 12 years old. I used to. It's quite a funny story because at the time, kids could still go and buy their parents packs of cigarettes at the tobacco shop. Yeah, yeah. And what happened is that every time I would go, I would keep the a little bit of the change, right? And I saved up this money. And next to the tobacco shop, there was this bookshop, and they had a few Marseille tarot in display. And I don't know why it called me. It called me. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And when I saved up enough money, even though the bookkeeper, the chap that was working at the shop was like, "What are you going to do with this?" And he was didn't really want to sell it to me because I was a kid, right? And I still bought my first deck like this, and yeah, and since then it's been quite a few years now that I've been studying tarot. What about you? How did you get your first deck?
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. I didn't know that children could ever buy their parents cigarettes, but we're at,
Yes.
yeah, so with my first deck, I was 11 years old and I was watching anime and I saw this girl and she was like doing tarot and like how a boy felt about her. And I was like, "Oh my God." Like I had my first crush. I was like, "I need to know how he feels." And so my parents owned a business and I would oftentimes like go to my parents' business and usually I'd only take like $5 and I would like leave a note in the cash register like, "Oh, Delphine took $5." But this time I took $20 and I ran off to the store that was actually quite close to my parents' business, and it was called Moonshadow. And it was like in this attic, and they had like all of this, like all of these, it was just a lot of magical supplies. And I went up there and I saw this tarot deck, and it was hot pink. It had fairies all over it. And I was like, this is perfect. It's my tarot deck. And I went up to the register and I bought it for 18.99. And I took it home and I had no idea how to use it.
Wow. Hold on, you said $18.99. Where was that? Which,
Oh, I'm from Seattle, Washington.
okay.
Yeah.
In Seattle. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah. Let's give people so they know.
Yeah, of
Right.
course. Of course. Yeah, Seattle,
And
Washington.
do you still have that deck?
Yes, I do actually. It's sitting at my parents' house.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I still have my very first deck, which was a Grimo deck. It was oh my God, it feels like ages ago, ages ago. And then how did you get to learn tarot?
Yeah, like I mean, I would just kind of pull a couple of cards. I didn't really actually know what I was doing. I would read about them. I would use the little booklet because it's like I couldn't afford to like go buy myself like a tarot book yet. And then like slowly but surely, I started looking things up on the internet. And then eventually, I started just doing really basic readings. And I didn't really predict anything major. Still didn't understand what I was doing. But then in high school, I started doing tarot readings for my friends, and I kept being right. But of course, when we're that age, it's like, I mean, we just think that our friends are predictable and that it's actually quite easy to, anticipate what they're going to do. Um, it wasn't until I was 18 and I started reading tarot for myself in coffee shops just while drinking my morning Americano that other people started coming up to me and just asking for like, a short tarot reading. And at this point, obviously, I wasn't charging. Obviously, I was quite new and I was really intimidated by the fact of, reading for other people, strangers. But then I would make predictions and they would end up coming true. And it wasn't until one day I was sitting in that coffee shop and a professional tarot reader came up to me. I didn't know she was professional. And she asked me for a reading. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." And she was like, she asked about our relationship. I told her everything. And she was like, "Wow, why don't you charge?" And I was like, oh, I'm not good enough for that. And she was like, no, I'm a professional reader. And actually, you are. So I started charging $5. And when I started charging $5, everybody kept paying the $5. And then I kept raising my rates, raising my rates, raising my rates. Uh, and then finally, it's like, people just still kept coming to see me. And I still have clients from like when I was like 19 years old. It's crazy.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So you start, you know, what you described there is often when I teach, because Delphine and I were both also readers and teachers, people get so nervous about starting to do readings for other people. And I always tell them, I said, just sit at a cafe and read for yourself, right? Inverted quote, you read for yourself.
Yeah.
But in no time, you'll see people coming and approaching you and trying to get readings for you, right? Because people are curious and they want to know, and I think that's the best way to sort of like break this ice, to read for the people, for strangers. And I always think that it's easier to read for strangers than to read for people you actually know, because
Absolutely.
yeah.
I absolutely agree. But how about you? Like, when did you do your first reading for a stranger? What was that like?
I you know, it kind of it's what was it like? I started so yeah, I started looking at the cards and also reading the little booklet, right? But it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And by the
Oh,
way, I really wanna make this point that you do not need to wait for somebody to gift you a tarot deck, right? Because I hear this a lot. Oh, you're supposed to get your first tarot deck gifted. But I think if I would have waited for that, I could have waited a long time before I would have been gifted my first tarot deck. Have you ever heard this before? That.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, I mean, it's the question that I get asked in every single one of my classes without fail. Everybody's like, oh, does somebody have to gift you a deck? And I think this is just like a strange way for like, people to gatekeep tarot. It's
Yeah.
like, and we're not gatekeeping tarot. That's not what we're doing here in this
No, 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 no,
podcast.
no, no. It's really about, putting our hearts on the sleeve and talking about it and really offering all this experience and knowledge that we might have for what it's worth.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because in all of my courses, this is what I tell people. It's like, there's tons of tarot books out there. Like, I mean, you've got Betty Tarot, you have all of these resources online. And it's like, the reason to take a course or the reason to even listen to a podcast or something is because it's the conversations around tarot that really help you understand it. It's
Yeah.
that I really believe that.
Absolutely. A bit like an astrologer or Kabbalist will start to talk the language of
Yeah.
astrology and Kabbalah,
Yeah.
you start saying, oh, Mercury is in Pisces today, and this is kind of what it means, right? And so we start talking about, the feel of the Empress, so there's a language. But so sorry, I diverted, but how did I start reading tarot? Well, I was quite young, so I was curious. I was looking at the images. I was not really understanding them, and especially the Marseille tarot is very, it's medieval, looking. And so I kept picking it up, putting it down, trying to understand, but never really doing predictions. More like I think I was already kind of feeling the tarot for a tool as a mirror, almost, from a young age. And then I had a bit of a crisis as a teenager where I was raised Catholic and I was very how can I say? I was a great believer. I've always been very spiritual, but because my way of life and I guess when my sexuality awakened, Catholicism just didn't feel like God loved me, right? So I was like, well, if God doesn't love me, there isn't a God. So I kind of had this huge rebellion against religions and spirituality. So I kind of stopped for a while. And I moved to the US because I was a dancer at the time, and I was working there, and I started to feel the call again. And I would go into this shop, Barnes and Nobles, and all these bookshop, and I started to be directed towards, the tarot book, the tarot cases, and at the time was more of a self-help section more than a proper esoteric tarot sections. And then I started buying a tarot deck again, and I could feel the pull. And I was reading more about it. And then when I moved to England, this is when I really started sharing my tarot with other people. And I started to try to read for friends, and then I went into serious courses to just and I realized that it was not so much that I mean, of course, I was learning stuff in courses, but it was more this connection I had with other people, right? To be with like-minded, because I had been discovering this world on my own for so many years. And then I started to, um, predict things when the teacher was not even, hadn't even taught us that kind of thing, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, I can really do that for people. And yeah, and one thing led to the other, and I started not really charging, but always asking something in return for a sort of an energy exchange, right?
Yeah.
'Cause, I think this is important because there's a sense of giving and receiving and respecting that sort of your craft, basically. And many, many years later, I had an interview for Treadwell's Bookshop, and I interview which, both Delphine and I work for Treadwell's Books in London. I used to read, and so I had my interview there, and I became one of the readers there. And then this was like the big step where it was like, you know, damn, I'm an established reader, like because I'm working in this shop. So I guess for me, it was really much like I had been doing it for a long time without realizing I was doing it until, like the set price was there until it became, official. Somebody sort of officialized me as a professional reader, right? Yeah, and then I started to teach there. But I did study lots of different types. I studied with Philippe Camoin in France. I had some workshops with students of Alejandro Jodorowsky. So I do come from that slightly more French and Italian school, where I guess you come from a more English school, which is this Waite-Smith, don't you?
Yes, yes, yeah, 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 definitely. I primarily use Rider Waite because I've always sort of like I began with a Rider Waite analogous deck, even though it was like a fairy deck, and now of course it's like I primarily use Rider Waite just because I love it because it's a storytelling deck, and I find that it has the most like neutral personality because I do find that different decks have different personalities. It's like Thoth, for example. I read with Thoth for I think 6 or 7 years, and I still pull it out sometimes, and I find that it gives me a very good energetic read, but I don't necessarily feel that it tells me about like the practical everyday events that might be happening or will happen. Um, but I love that you talked about your journey with tarot, especially as a teenager and just having a difficult time and, just sort of like finding your faith, finding your voice again. Um, because it's like for me, I know that like finding tarot at such a young age was a really beautiful experience because I felt like tarot was kind of my mother. It's like, I mean, my real mother is wonderful, but with tarot, it's like it really helped accelerate my process to self-actualization, I think, at a much younger age. And of course, I think that self-actualization is maybe one of the most powerful things that we can do for ourselves, because of course, knowing ourselves is, how we interact in the world in a more authentic way that, is going to actually get us the things that we're wanting or seeking.
Yeah, I think, yeah, this is very interesting because the tarot really helps you as a guide, doesn't it? And I think
Yeah,
this is the subject for another
true,
episode.
true.
What tarot can do for you?
Yes,
And how can one use tarot? But I think it does really help you move things along faster. I sometimes when I read for people, they come to see me, and I'm sure they come to see that happens to you as well. The tarot kind of gives you the answer immediately, right? You don't, with the difference through therapy, you have to kind of like work through a while to try to uncover by yourself the sort of problems or understand where the problem's rooted. Whereas the tarot tells you, it's right there. Now you have to work your way back to figure out how to entangle that, right? And so when you have this sort of crisis and you feel a little bit alone, I think tarot can really help you find yourself, help you understand a lot of things about the self. Yeah.
definitely.
What would you say your style of reading is?
My style of reading is very intuitive and like very psychic at this point. It's like, I mean, ultimately, of course, like we understand the core meanings of the cards because that's extremely important. But ultimately, it's like, I mean, I see the tarot as like my guardrails. I pull out the cards and then it just kind of informs what I'm channeling. Um, but yeah, like I mean, it really all depends on like who I'm reading for. Like I mean, that really just kind of informs, what I end up saying, how I end up reading the messages that I give. Because like, some people want a more predictive reading, right? And then some people just are looking for, just insight into themselves. Um, what about your style?
I I like what you said about the safeguarding rails because I do describe the tarot as a parachute.
We have similar metaphors.
Yes. So it's a parachute. But I think my style, I do like to do the predictive, the fortune telling aspect of tarot because I think this is, I really truly believe that.
Yeah.
Also, you don't.
We are preserving the ancient art of divination.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Yes.
it is part of, the tarot practice, be able to predict. But I think what we predict is the present energy. The present energies are
Yeah.
happening in some way, and if we keep going in this direction, this is what will unfold. But also
Yes.
we have a choice to kind of uh, 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 figure out a way to maybe change this current energy so you can change the future, possibly. And so I guess my style of reading is I always aim to empower people, right? I always
Yeah.
aim to give people tools, even if it's a bad news, then how are you going to cope with it? What is the best way to deal with the situation? Because I believe that tarot is a very magical tool, and the magic is in self-power, right? The empowerment. So yeah, I do. I think we might have a similar style of reading, but with maybe with different techniques, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. What else do you do in life, Delphine, before beside
Um,
tarot?
yeah, so uh so many things. What do I do? So I mean, I guess like more of like my academic background. My first degree was in religious studies. I specifically focused on yoga and tantra. And so that definitely informs like my tarot reading practice as well, just because it's definitely rooted in contemplative traditions. Then I went ahead and went to law school. And I'm actually a lawyer now. So that's what I do is like my 9 to 5. But ultimately, it's like, as far as tarot is concerned, it's something that will never leave me. It's something I will never stop. It's like, it's a part of who I am. It's part of my soul. I definitely feel like it's a part of my calling. Like I firmly believe that people that have kind of gotten to this place that you and I have, where, we have clients, we have people that come to us, people that want messages, people that want to meet, learn what we know. Um, it's because we have a message to give our clients. And it's like some people have a message to give others and others don't. Maybe they just have messages for themselves. In the same way that artists, right? It's like, I mean, some people create art and should create art because it's just for them and it's a means of expression. But then, there's other people that create art and it needs to be shared with the world. Um, yeah.
Good, many things. Yeah, before being because I am now a full-time tarot reader teacher. I'm a transpersonal coach as well, so I do and I love to also I run retreats, around
Oh,
tarot.
what are your retreats like?
So my retreats, it's usually every year we have a retreat where we mix usually some tarot practice, and I do this with another friend. Also, she's a Reiki master, and so we tend to mix um, tarot with Reiki, and we have different practices. And one of the big thing I like to practice within my retreats is something that I call dancing the tarot. Dancing the tarot.
Everybody is obsessed with your Dancing the Tarot workshop.
Uh-huh.
Everyone is obsessed with it.
So dancing the tarot is something that I kind of put together when I first started teaching tarot. One of the ideas I have, one of the things I do is that I get people to embody the cards, right? So you step into the position of the cards, you see what it feels like. So this is a very somatic approach to tarot, right? So you get the messages through the body. And I kind of wanted to take it to the next level where the cards, people representing the cards, would start interacting with each other. but I didn't have the understanding on how to deal with people if, something very traumatic would come up. And, it was a little bit, I knew tarot, but I didn't know how to deal with this sort of things. So I went on and studied, so I became a certified coach. And then I studied somatic healing, and then I studied systemic family constellation, which was absolutely fascinating because the
Yeah.
parallel between the systemic constellation work and tarot is very intertwined. And so I ended up creating this sort of 1 or 2 day workshop where we do a tarot reading and then we constellate the cards, which means that people start to represent the cards. And I help unlock some issues that the person brings, right? And
Yeah.
so what happens in this session is that the unlocking doesn't just happen on the mental level, it happens on a very energetic and soul level because it's physical and sometimes it goes beyond words. You can just feel the blockage sort of opening up, right? And so during the retreats, we do a lot of dancing the tarot. We do a lot of this sort of unlocking, and we create we tap into those systems which sort of need a little bit of help. And people get to practice a lot of tarot. We usually also have a lot of fun. The retreats always happen somewhere warm and beautiful. This year we're going to Corfu. Uh,
Ooh.
Last year we were in Ibiza. So, I do try to also put a lot of pleasure and fun in the retreats as well as studying and digging through our traumas. You need the balance.
Gotta add a little fun in there, definitely.
Exactly, exactly. But I call it dancing the tarot because my background actually, I was a professional dancer. I studied as a ballet dancer, and then I did lots of different things. I worked in musical theater, in opera. Then I sang, and I'm also a musician. And so yeah, the performing arts was very much my life until a few years ago when I decided that I was really making that shift and sort of dedicating myself to this. Um, Career that I have now, and I'm very happy. I really love it. It's really yeah, it's my new life, you know?
Definitely, definitely. Um, I think we went over this, but I teach courses as well, also at Treadwell's. Adrian also has courses on at Treadwell's. And it is really interesting because one thing that I love about teaching is it's like we get to teach people our language because it's
Mhm.
kind of like, because that's the thing about tarot. It's like, I mean, it's like speaking another language. And it can be really, really helpful for, understanding all sorts of things. But I digress.
Yes, no, it's teaching is I love teaching. I almost and I have to admit something here that I think I love teaching more than reading tarot. Because by teaching people how to read tarot, you really get to see the empowerment in people and how they get to learn how to do things for themselves. And so when I teach tarot, it's always about finding a way to gain your power and to have agency, right? And so when I see people that have gone through all my different courses, I teach Smith Waite like you, and I also teach Marseille, and I teach, different spread classes and workshops. And when people have gone through all the different classes with me, and you see them after, maybe 6 months of studying, when they start doing readings and they surprise you, they see things that you wouldn't have necessarily seen, right? And this is an amazing feeling. I really love it. I'm like, oh Lord, it's so good because then you see the people coming from a beginner's level to actually being able to surprise you. And I found that extremely rewarding, extremely rewarding.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, right? Because it's like I love being around beginners because like I mean sometimes of course like because we've been doing this for years and years and years and years, it's like, they'll just see something in a different way. And also it's like I mean usually we're around people that are just like waking up or like, kind of like coming into their spirituality and it's like I mean there's just something so beautiful about like being in that space. Um but yeah, it is interesting. It's like when I take my clients, like, I mean, I would say that I love teaching and reading tarot equally, because it's like when I feel like I'm reading tarot, it's like my muscle that I'm continuously working. And, I call it like my field research. Um, and so that's like no one reading is ever the same, and that's what I love about it. It's like I mean, sometimes the most innocuous people will come in and they will just surprise you. It's like, and I just love it because it's like people will just sit down and invite you to explore their inner world. It's just endlessly fascinating. It's like I mean, as tarot readers, we get to live so many lives in one. And yeah, I mean, I love people and I love connection. I think that you talked about connection at sort of like, the beginning of this episode. But it's like ultimately, it's like, people will forget what you said. No, hold on, wait, what is it? Maya Angelou said that people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I just think that that's infinitely powerful. And like, as tarot readers, that's sort of the realm that we're in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right because people will always remember if they walk out of a reading or a class knowing what to do with tools, if they feel empowered or if they feel like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. This is, this situation is, terrible. You're right. If they feel
Yeah,
strong and empowered, they will always remember that. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So I see you've been shuffling your cards. Do you want to maybe give us a little? I don't know, a card or two with to wrap up this episode
To
to
wrap up this
give us
episode,
an advice, something,
okay. So maybe a thought to leave everyone with.
a thought. I would love a thought from Delphine.
Okay, a thought. And you can help me interpret it. Okay, so what is a thought that we want to leave everyone with?
Oh, interesting.
So ultimately, a lot of times in tarot, there are
Well,
scary cards, right? And like, I mean, nobody really knows how to interact with the devil. But I
so
think,
Delphine just picked the card of the devil for those who don't have the video. So we just great. So we have the card of the devil. So what's the thought here, Delphine?
I mean, the devil is all about good sex, good food, sex, hedonism. Um, but like, I mean, yeah, like the devil it's about our visceral animalistic reactions, right? The devil is really instinctual. The devil is also about power and control, and the devil is about the darker underbelly of humanity. But ultimately, the devil is also about materiality. The devil is, its astrological correlation is Saturn, or sorry, Capricorn. Which relates to the planet Saturn. And so, really, it's like, I mean, the devil is teaching us how to be in relationship with materiality. So, that's in relationship with our body, that's in relationship with other people's bodies, that's in relationship with, like, substances, that's in relationship with food. And, I think that there's a lot to learn from just being in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I always feel like the devil, the advice of the devil is to dare to be, to dare to show up the way you really are, warts and all, and not to care what people might think, you know? There's always
Yeah,
this feeling because the devil is always represented, with like goat feet and, not necessarily attractive, but the devil doesn't really, give a damn about, what they're gonna look like, And so I always feel like
yeah.
there's this daring of bringing forth a torch, that other people are too afraid of showing type of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, the devil can just teach us a lot, can't he? It's like one thing that I think usually appears with the devil. I mean, I loved what you said about just like, showing up as you are, like warts and all, just because like I think that most of us, we feel this pull toward like perfectionism or like, always like showing up the right way in like relationships or whatever. And it's like, the devil is kind of just saying that there's a little bit of fun in the darkness sometimes, right? I mean, I'm not saying act crazy, I'm not saying be toxic, I'm not saying be abusive, but at the same time, like show up as you are because it's like, I mean, there's things that give you texture. And without any texture, you're just fucking boring.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's the great lesson of the devil, I think, is you can't avoid it. You have to integrate it. Uh,
Yeah.
because it is part of life and what we have to go through and let's yeah, let's embrace it, but let's not have the devil ride us. We have to ride it. We have to, be in charge of it.
We ride the beast does not ride us.
Exactly. Super. Well, Delphine, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. And I guess we'll have one of these coming out every week. So subscribe and yeah, and then hopefully see you all next week again.
Yep, we'll see you guys next week. Definitely like and subscribe because there's going to be more great tarot content. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.